Hello and welcome everybody. It's Matt from Pure MTG. Welcome to the new year. Yes, it's been a few weeks since I've made a video. I apologize. Just kind of wasn't feeling it. And sometimes you just don't want to force yourself to do something, so I figured I would do it when I wanted to. Hope you guys can understand. But I do have a few ideas for a few new videos to come out with. I have a new deck that I built that is really, really fun. I have a format, as you can see. Boom, Commander Raids. We've talked about it on the Cardboard Conversations, but we haven't really advertised it on our channel, which probably should have been the first place. But so Bob and Pat the Popper and a few other people decided that we wanted to make another format. This format is for Commander, and it is loosely based on the format that you can play at one of the conventions called Raid Monster. And basically, it's a player versus monster format where you play your commander decks against this boss or this raid boss, and the goal is to kill the raid boss. The raid boss scales via the number of players, and it has a number of effects that it can do on its turn, and it's all randomized by using like a D20 or an app. I do have very minimal programming expertise. However, I did create a Android app that will be released hopefully by the end of this month. I'm still in the process of trying to test it a little bit, and I still have to make it. I want to make it look a little nicer before. I'll show it in the video, but right now it's not the best looking. It's kind of very basic, but it's functional. And yeah, so the goal is to be able to grab a commander deck that you own and play against the raid monster. Currently, there are 3 difficulties of the raid monster, and they all scale based on the results that are on the chart. You basically just kind of pick a difficulty. There's easy, baseline, and hard. So basically easy, medium, and hard. And each one of these charts dictates what the raid monster does on its turn. So when it takes its turn, it goes last. When it takes its turn, it rolls a d20, and then you consult the chart and go, what does it do? There are 11 total results in total. So if you play enough, you'll remember what each one of them do. Each one of them are tied to 2 different results. So you're going to see number 1 and number 20 only have 1 chance of resolution, and the rest all have 2. This was to make it easy to convert to a D20. We had played with a D12 for a while, but not everybody has a D12. The majority of people are going to have a D20. Roughly 10% chance for results 2 through 19, and then a 5% chance, not roughly, it is a 5% chance for 1 and 20. And yeah, so basically the raid monster skips its first turn, and it will roll a die on the second turn, the third turn, the fourth turn, the fifth turn, the sixth turn, basically every turn after the second. But as the turns go on, the raid monster gets stronger. So on the second turn, it rolls 1 dice. On the third turn, it rolls 1 die. And then on the fourth turn, it rolls 2 dice. And it adds an additional die every other turn after the first dice that is added at, or die that's added at 2. So say at turn 6, it's going to roll 3 dice. And then you consult and you kind of resolve them one by one. So the easy difficulty is kind of designed to be played against precons. There are some very strong precons and some okay precons. I'm going to do a test at the end of this video so you can kind of get an idea of what the format's about, and this will just be a single player. There will be a multiplayer video that I can link to in the description, just to make sure to check that out. That's over on Pat the Popper's channel. We did it after Cardboard Conversations. So that gives you an idea of what it's like to have 3 people to play against the raid monster. I think we might have gotten a 4th. But in theory, this should be able to be scaled by any number of players. I've only tested it to 5, but it gains hit points per player, and the results are global, so each player gets affected equally. So in theory, it should be able to be as many people as you have. You'll have to do some testing if you have a big group of players that want to try this out. This will be free. The app will be free, and the link in the description will be to this Google Docs, and you'll be able to check it out. This is the second playtest version. Not really much has changed, just some different wordings and whatnot. So Another thing that I want to kind of go over is additional rules, and you can always refer to the document. But as with any Commander game, Rule 0 still applies. So the cool thing about this format, and like Commander in general, is that at your table you can do whatever you want. There is no like right way to do something. If your group decides that they like to do something better that way, then do it. It's fine. Same thing that goes with raid monsters or Commander raids, is that you can do whatever you want, really. I mean, obviously, we're not going to like come police your game. But there are some specific rules that we tend to follow when we're doing the playtesting. So if you do change that, just know that that's untested. You can always give us feedback as well. If you go up here, you can join our Discord to become part of the playtesting, and also if you want to just come hang out and ask questions about the format, if you want to provide your feedback, like I said, you can join there. If you want to look for games and play with some people and kind of get a feel for the format, there's a looking for group section in our Discord. And then if you really want it to be more personable, you can send us an email for whatever reason, if you don't like Discord or whatnot. Commander damage does not work versus the boss monster. It still does damage, but it just doesn't do the actual commander damage, like 21. That doesn't do anything. You win the game, and target opponent loses the game, do nothing. So cards like Door to Nothingness, Revel in Riches, cards like that, if they just say you win or somebody loses, those just don't do anything. So with these rules, it does kind of create some dead cards. And that's something that you can do with these specific card notes we'll go over. But they're kind of designed because it is a fun, casual format. It's not really designed to be like super crazy competitive. So cards like I Win the Game kind of just like deter away from like the raid monster can't do that. So it's kind of more to try to even it out and just kind of keep it like a fun game. So the monster's abilities cannot be countered or stopped in any way. So this is referring to the raid monster. However, I was thinking about it laying in bed one day that I feel like maybe excluding all counter spells kind of like deters a lot of decks from being able. There's a lot of dead cards. There's a lot of counter spells in the format. A lot of decks use counter spells, and it's kind of like it doesn't really make a ton of sense to like just exclude all counter spells. So the idea that I had is the alternative rule to play with is allowing counter spells to force the raid monster to re-roll the ability. This gives counter spells a purpose, and it doesn't make it busted, because like sometimes the raid monster will roll like it rolls 3 or 4 things. One of the things is like really, really potent, but the rest are all kind of whatever. And that can happen even without being able to counter it. But just having the ability to use a card that you have that's in your deck already, give counter spells a reason to exist, and also have that slight chance of potentially re-rolling it as something that isn't so detrimental that allows you to win. Like I said, it gives those decks and the counter spells a reason to exist in the format, and I think it overall is healthy. But I need more playtesting. So far, it's in our table and in my experience, it's actually been really, really nice. It has allowed some wins where it would have been a loss, and I think that's counter spells. That is what it does. So I think it does a really good thing. Now the biggest problem is it's kind of hard to determine like what the raid monster is casting. At the moment, I've just kind of blanketed and said they're all non-creature spells. So if it says like negate, like target non-creature spell, that works. But things like Swan Song, I don't know. At the moment, that would still be technically useless because it's not a non-creature spell. I mean, it is not an instant sorcery or enchantment, so stuff like Swan Song wouldn't really do anything. But you can play test it in your group and see if that makes it too broken. One mana counter spell might be too strong, so it's probably better just to keep it as not all non-creature. But like I said, feedback is great. Come check out the Discord or the comments section of this video, or like I said, email, and those are all good. You can respond to any monster ability as they do use the stack. So if, for instance, say you roll this ability where it doesn't allow until the next boss monster's next turn, players cannot draw more than one card or play more than one spell each turn. What you could do is in response say Sphinx's Revelation for 4. So before that trigger resolves, before that spell resolves, you're going to draw the card, so you can at least draw some cards in response to it doing its ability. Same thing with like any of the Annihilator triggers, and this is only for hard mode, but this is actually also 50. But yeah, Annihilator XDR, you can respond to any of the abilities. They all go on the stack, and you can respond to them as such. And then there is one ability that allows the raid monster to place defenders in front of itself. I felt like there was an iteration where it didn't create creatures. And I felt like then it became like this very big like punching bag, like it's just a big boss. It's just a big like block of HP, and combat felt very useless or not very useless, very mundane. It was just kind of like everybody swings everything all the time. You never had to worry about like what combat was like. So I created this this ability that it allows it to put defender tokens into play in front of it. They're flying in this version. There are other versions where maybe they're infect creatures instead. Maybe they're death touchers. You know, there's different. The cool thing about this is there are going to be a ton of different raid monsters. These are just the generic ones. There's going to be ones that are themed by a type of enemy, like a Phyrexian boss monster or whatever. So these bosses all can be really, really cool. There's like a really cool idea for like this tower mode where like you go from the easy difficulty facing one. You kind of like pick any number of charts you want to go against, and you kind of just like once you beat that raid monster, you go to the next raid monster, and you kind of like go up this tower. And maybe every time you defeat a raid monster, you gain like a boon, kind of like a roguelike. I don't want to use that word because not really, but it could be. Maybe you gain emblems. I don't know. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with a PvE format. I think it's a pretty untapped well of fun. I like playing the game with my friends. I still love Commander. It's still my favorite. But Bob, he loves actually Commander raids more. He wants to play that more than just Commander itself. He would rather play this format than like facing each other. He's more of a PvE player. He wants to play with friends against something. So this is kind of like, another reason why we wanted to do this. But the reason why I mentioned all of that is because the monster will block to preserve its life total as much as possible while also trying to kill the most attacking creatures. That's kind of like the general rule. Basically, try to block with the boss monster exactly how you would. Now, there are some weird scenarios to where, like, say you're attacking with a creature that if it hits, it draws a card. Is that more valuable than the raid monster losing its life? Maybe it takes a little bit more damage to prevent you from drawing a card. I don't know if I go that deep into like the thought process. I like to think of a raid monster more primal, like more of like a beast, like it's just going to protect itself as much as possible, so it would block the most damage. But you could try to go with the route of like trying to do it as best as it can. That also is fine. It's just it becomes a little bit more muddled where you might think it's better to block one way. I might think it's better to block a different way for the raid monster. Now you're kind of fighting on like what way it should block, and it gets a little weird. So the basic rule is just try to block as much damage as possible. Try to ignore on-hit effects. I don't know. Like I said, it's a little muddled. This one causes probably the most potential problems as far as like how to handle things, but it's the best way I know how to make combat matter, because it doesn't attack. The basic ways that it kills you is basically like dealing damage via the roll 4 and 5. It does a little bit of damage on 18 and 19 by draining your life equal to the number of dice rolled. It does the same thing for 10 and 11, where it loses life equal to the number of tokens sacrificed that way. Stuff like that. It kind of drains you a little bit as you go down, depending on the dice rolls. So it doesn't need to attack to kill, but it would be even more difficult if the raid monster had to attack. There may be a way to do it better in the future. If you have an idea, throw it down in the comment section. We'll try to make this format the best we can as a community. It'll be great. Okay, so with there being over 20,000 cards in the game, it's very difficult to try to like prepare for every scenario. The first thing we came across was like cards that refer to opponents' lands or have opponents vote. Those are strange and difficult because since you're an ally with your players that you're playing with, your fellow Hearthstone has nothing. It doesn't tap for anything because the raid monster has no land. So they, at the moment, how we're treating it is in our playtesting is just they tap for colorless. If my main goal is to be able to grab literally any commander deck you have in play, and I think that it gets a little bad. It feels bad if like you go to have a hand and you have like Exotic Orchard and like maybe a Follow Our Stone, and those cards basically do nothing. If they tap for 0, that would be pretty bad. But at the moment, we just have them tap for colorless just so they do something. Cards that require an opponent to make a choice can be resolved via a random dice roll if you want. Because otherwise it becomes a little strange as well. I mean, you could do like the best result for the raid monster. Like there's a card called Spotlight of Fame or something like that. It basically says each opponent chooses Fame or Shame, I think, something like that. And you get a creature from everybody that picks one option, and then you get like a treasure or draw a card for the other one. Either way, voting, like it's hard to determine like what's best for the raid monster in that situation. So I think it's probably better just to go like roll a die, and if it's a 1 through 10, it's, you know, the one option, or if it's the rest of the dies, it's the other option. That's probably the best way to do it, just so it's easy, just to kind of go, nobody's fighting, you just roll a die, boom, done. It's easy, it's quick. At the moment, there are some, a lot of dead cards in the format. Counterspells can be one of them, but I think that's the solution that I provided earlier. I think it counts for a lot of them, and it accounts for a lot of them, and makes them less dead. But there are things like artifact removal, enchantment removal. Those don't really do anything. There are times where the raid monster can get artifacts. You can like target a player gets gain some treasure, or Will the Wise, I think, is the one where like they get clues. They can use the treasures and just do nothing with them, and that would be something that I would like. I would make a ruling that like if somebody played a Dockside Extortionist and for some reason the raid monster has 5 treasure, I think the raid monster would just use them so that you don't get anything from the dockside. That's the ruling that I would make. But the things like Seal of the Primordium, or any kind of card that refers to or any kind of card that is like a enchantment removal or artifact removal, I would say they're completely dead. In that situation, what we've been playtesting with is like cycling them away to like just draw a different card. Some people think that's too strong if it's cycled for free, so there has been mana tied to it. And what I've just basically been doing is going, if you're playing in easy mode, it's free to cycle dead cards. If you're playing on the baseline medium mode, it is 1 colorless mana to cycle. And if you're playing on hard mode, it's 2 colorless mana to cycle. Just so the difficulties kind of have like a general, like a mana cost to them that kind of escalates the more difficult it gets. Because cycling cards is pretty powerful. Obviously, if you're playing a cycling deck, I don't know if I would consider them being cycled. I mean, it is, but we're just using the word cycle. But I don't know if it would count as a card being cycled, if that makes any sense for the effects of stuff. But either way. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think about the format. It's pretty cool overall. What I want to do now is I'll put the camera down and actually show you guys my the commander deck. I'm going to be running a precon against the easy raid monster because it's like the kind of like the easiest generic. Like that's probably what most people are going to start with. That's what I would recommend. Just kind of get a feel for it. It's fairly easy. If you notice here, it's got about a 75 win rate versus the raid monster precons do. And I'm not playing a super powerful precon. It's just Stefan. Is it Strefan? Yeah, Strefan, the vampire deck. It's not terribly strong. It's probably mid-range of a precon, I would say. But it's got some cool cards in it. So, if you guys have any questions about the format that I didn't address, make sure to download this document and read it. You should have availability down in the description. You can just click the link and share it with everybody. It'll be awesome. The more people that play, the better. Make sure to come join our Discord. The link will be in the Google Doc as well. And I'll probably have it in the description as well, because why not? If you want to just come join the Discord and come play with one of us, you're fine to do that. Like I said, there's people always looking to find games. We even have a decent number of people at the moment in the Discord. I mean, we've got 18 people, and we haven't really done any kind of advertising yet. This is kind of like the first video. So, without further ado, let's get into the actual game. And it'll just be 1v the monster, which is also another cool thing about that, is that you can use this to playtest decks. I know a lot of personally, I know that I will grab a hand of 7 and just kind of just goldfish and just play and just kind of go like, yeah, just kind of, I don't know, maybe they board wipe this turn and just like kill all my creatures and see how I resolve a board wipe. The cool thing about this is that instead of just kind of like making it up on the fly, you can actually play towards a goal. You can play towards beating this raid monster. And because the scales per player, you can play 1v the raid monster. And I've actually found that it does a decent job at interacting removal or imitating removal. And yeah, so I'll play a game real quick. It shouldn't take very long. Most games only last about anywhere between 6 and 8 turns, because as the turns go by, you're going to see that the number of dice rolled starts to get a little out of hand, and it's just kind of like there's an end to it. There's always an end. Like sometimes it can dodge the rolls, and like you could go like for 12, 15 turns, but like you're not going to have any permanence left. Basically, you're not going to have any like creatures or any artifacts or any enchantments, any tokens. If you don't win by like turn, I would say at least turn 10 on like the medium and hard modes, then you're probably not going to win. And if it doesn't kill you right away, it will. So you can just concede. Like there are times where I was playing against hard mode earlier, and it has this Annihilator, and it destroyed all my lands because it just previously, the previous roll destroyed all my creatures, and then it rolled this Annihilator, which took away all my lands. So I was like, I'm in top deck mode. It's rolling 4 dice a turn. Now it's going to roll 5 the next turn. Yeah, I just concede. You know, it is what it is. But yep, let's play a game, and we'll play against the easy mode, and I'll show you guys the app that will be coming out, like I said, hopefully by the end of the month. And just remember, this is just a very basic app, but it does work, so very happy with that. And you don't need the app. You can use a D20 if you want. Obviously, that's all you'll have available at the moment until I release the app on the Android store. And like I said, it will be free as well. All right, let's get into it again. So this is the app. And like I said, it's very, very basic at the moment, but it is functional. So because this is a precon, this is a Strafan precon, we'll go easy difficulty. And so it because it's one player, it's going to go to 20 HP. Players always go first, and it goes last. So it'll go after I do. So I already have a starting hand. I just mulliganed and had a better second hand. So I'll do draw first. I'll do a tapped land and then pass. So it always skips the first turn. Basically, it starts on the even turn, starts on the second turn. It rolls half the number of dice equal to the number of rounds cut in half. So half of 1 rounded down to 0. If that makes sense. So I will take my second turn. I will play an unclaimed territory. I will name vampires. I will tap 2. I will play a charcoal diamond, and then I'll pass a turn. So this is now the Raid Monsters round 2. So you click round 2, and then you either roll a d20, which I probably should do. I probably should roll a d20 instead of using the app, but I built the app, so we're going to use the app. Like I said, it'll be out soon. So you just click or tap on your phone. And so each player sacrifices X divided by 2 enchantments where X equals DR, rounded up. So X equals DR is number of dice rolled. That's the formula. And then if you notice, it also says die result equals 15 because it's trying to reference the chart that I created, just so you have an idea. Sometimes because there's only 11 results, you'll roll the die. Or you'll click the button and you're not really 100% sure if it changed because it could hit the same one the same time. It's just equal chance every time you roll. It doesn't like change the results based on the previous roll. It could hit the same thing twice. So at least the die result gives you a good indication of that it was rolled. Hopefully the die result changes. If it doesn't, just know that like when you click and you hold down, it goes gray. So you'll know that you'll know that you've hit it. Okay. So I have no enchantment, so I'm good to go and take my turn. So untap, draw my card for the turn. I'm going to try to get some beats in there. So I'm going to go with the Strafan. So he's a 3/2. Beginning of my end step, create a blood token for each player who's lost life this turn, and then whenever he attacks, I can sacrifice 2 blood, put a vampire tapped and attacking. So then I will pass a turn, and this will go to round 3. Roll for the monster. It rolled enchantments again, so that's awesome. Sometimes you dodge the stuff, and sometimes it completely screws you up. So, you know. So I will untap. I will draw. I'm going to play a Myriad Landscape tapped. I'll tap 3. I'll play a Larine the Diversion, which is partnered with Camber. So I'll run through the deck real quick, find Camber. I've played this deck a few times, so I don't 100% know. You know, I basically only opened the deck. It's a real deck actually, as opposed to a proxy. I basically only opened the deck to do playtesting versus the raid monster. I think it's a good idea to use a non crazy powerful deck just to playtest the general rules. The medium version is pretty good against like mid-range budget decks. I wouldn't say even budget, mid-range power. And then the hard mode's kind of designed against more of the combo-y, pretty well-oiled machine decks because there's some pretty brutal results. All right, so then I'll swing and hit the raid monster for 3. I'm going to get a blood at the end of turn. And then I can -3 hit points from that. And then this is round 4 now, so it'll roll twice. See, this is a bad one for me. This is one of the worst results. So sacrifice a legendary permanent and X equals DR. So it's gonna be 2 creatures and a legendary permanent. You always have to make sure you're checking your lands and stuff for legendary permanents. Technically, what you could do in a situation like this, where say you have a legendary land, if you have a legendary creature, you can sack this for the legendary permanent, and then the number of creatures is 2. So I have to sack my board. So it kind of imitates a board wipe. I was getting too strong. It knew that. So unfortunate. Yeah. And then that's just the first roll. The second roll is it gains 5 life, removes 5 infect. So it gains 5, and then back to my turn. Untap, draw, play a swamp. Try to flood the board with some monsters, but I don't really have a ton. So I could spend a turn ramping instead. 1, 2 for a Rakdos Signet. 1, 2 for a Myriad Landscape. Tap for 2 black for a Bromkirk Condemned. I'm gonna go get 2 black. So I try to ramp up just in case, just so I can flood the board and try to get a good amount of monsters out there. I forget why that swamp's in there, to be quite honest. I didn't change any of the cards. I think. I don't actually. Oh, I think it was a. I think it was an exotic orchard. Now that I think about it, I think I just replaced it with the swamp. And then I'll pass a turn, and then now it's turn 5. It's going to roll 2 dice. First die, enchantment. It loves this result, but you notice this is result 14. So I have no enchantments, so I'm good there. And roll one more time until the beginning of the monster's next turn. Players cannot draw more than 2 cards or play more than 2 spells each turn. Okay, that's not too bad. So untap. Now I got a bunch of mana, and we can hope to draw a card, another swamp. So now we can try to flood the board here with some beaters. Now I can only draw 1 more card, and I can only play 2 spells. So what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to play. Play a 4 for the Rambar, the Plunderer. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, gain a life and create a blood. Tap 2 for a Cordial Vampire. And then I can hit the boss monster, or the raid monster for 2. And pass the turn. This will go to round 6. And now we're in the danger territory where it's drawing, playing 3 spells a turn. So first roll. So that's going to be all of my board again. This is kind of an unfortunate showing, but this is, sometimes it sucks. So that was just the first roll. Second roll. Does it again. You can see that it changed to die result 3. And then the last one, enchantments. It really likes that result. All right. So that's not the worst. I mean, I guess it's the worst possible situation I could be in right now. But I'll draw. I drew a swamp. Pretty bad. At least I can draw. I can play an Ancient Cravings. So I'll lose 3 life. And draw 3 cards. Kind of try to refill the hand. I drew 3 land. That's pretty bad. So I guess instead I'll tap 5 and I'll play Imposing Grandeur. Each player may discard their hand and draw cards equal to the greatest mana value of a commander they own on the battlefield or in the command zone. So I'll just discard these 3 lands and draw 4 cards. And I'll tap my mana in a little better way, so just in case I draw a 1-drop. I did not draw a 1-drop, so then I'll pass the turn. And it's going to roll the dice. So that's 1. It's going to be 3 times. It's enchantments again. Okay, we're limited to a number of spells and deals 5 damage. That's not terribly bad. Down to 32. Untap. I drew an unfortunate Blasphemous Act, which not great in this situation. And Urge Defeat, which is also not great. And that could be useful. Patron of the Vein. Destroy target creature and opponent's control. Whenever a creature and opponent controls dies, exile it. I think it's time to play Strafan again, probably. So we'll tap 6. Replay. I think we'll do Arcane Signet. And then an Artillery Alchemy. This allows Bloods to equip and do some damage if it's on a creature. So hopefully I can kind of get some damage in. Now it's going to roll 4 dice. I'm going to pass the turn after that. So it rolls 4 dice. So first roll, of course, you got to love it. Second roll, did the same exact one. Third one, half the number of tokens. So that'll go to 1. And half the number of artifacts. Rounded up. So it's going to be 2 artifacts. I have 4 artifacts. It's going to be two artifacts. So I guess it'll be... I have enough mana at the moment. I guess it'll just be these 2. Alright, that's not ideal. We also probably should put our commander in the command zone. Can cast twice. And I believe that was all 4. So draw. I'm limited to a number of spells I can play. I drew a Temple of the False God. I think what I'll just do is I'll do 2, 4, 6, 8. I'll recast Stefan. It's kind of important to be on the field at the moment. And that'll be it. So I'll pass the turn. So now it's rolling another 4 dice. Okay, so this is one of the good results. There's one kind of like 5% chance you have a chance of doing something. So each player may immediately draw a card, place a land from their hand, and gain 5 life. So that's a pretty nice result. So I will draw a card. I have no lands to play, but I did gain the 5. So that's the first result there. It loves sacking. It normally doesn't do this, to be quite honest. It doesn't just keep sacking every turn, but this is a 10% chance to have this happen. So if you're rolling 4 or 5 dice a turn, it starts to getting a little hectic. Enchantments again, so then that's gone. Finally, it kills my enchantment. I think that was 4. I'll do one more. I think that was 4, but we'll do one more. So it gets 1 flying defender, DR. DR equals number of dice rolled. So there was 4 dice rolled, so it gets a 4/4 flying defender in front of it. You kind of just put a 4/4, and this is in front of the monster. So then I'll untap. Vampire Nighthawk's not terrible, but it does have a 4/4 flying defender, which isn't great. But I do have the Patron of the Vein, which is pretty solid. So I think I'll tap and kill that. So that'll be 2, 4, 6. So we'll play that Patron of the Vein to pop this. So when it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. And then whenever a creature dies, it gets 1/1 on each vampire you control. We'll say we did it in the right order, where I played Vampire Nighthawk first. That's the smart play. And then play the Patron to kill the guy. Each of them get a counter. Yeah, that'll be it. So then now it's on turn 10. So it's going to roll 5 dice now. Can only draw 2 cards, play 2 spells. That's fine. That's 1. Gains 5 life. It's 2. 3. Gains another 5 life. 4. It'll get a 5/5 flying defender. This is actually not bad because I have an Urge Defeat in hand, so this is solid. And then the last roll, or was that 5? I said 5, right? I think that was 5. It gained life. Defender. I can only play a spell. We'll do one more. Okay, immediately draw and place a land. I did draw a land. Great. Gain 5 life. Not bad. Alright. So then, because, like I said, that does use the stack, with that on the stack... Oh, I guess Urge Defeat is only a -3, -3. So what I'll probably... I'll attack and then I'll shrink it. Yeah. And, this went on for another, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. This is actually one of the longer games, probably the longest game I've ever played against a single player. Obviously, with it being a precon and with a little bit of bad luck, my board kept getting wiped, and I was too stubborn to quit, so I just kept playing. And eventually, as you can see, it gets to round 18 before I actually end up finishing the game. And yeah, you can just skip ahead if you don't want to see it, but if you kind of want to see how it unfolds, I muted it and this is 10 times speed, so you'll kind of see the things as they happen, but they're fairly quick. I unmute and resume back to normal speed for the resolution of the game, and then I talk a little bit more about the format and whatnot at the end, so make sure to watch till the end. Play these two. So what is that? 10 mana. Pass. So now it's got 10. No, it's still got 9 rolls. So 1, 2, 5, 6. Seven. I die. Well, round 18's pretty good survival. The lot of life gain that I gained from the lifelink from the vampires was pretty good, but it wasn't enough to take down the raid monster. Well, it was a lot longer than I anticipated. Normally these games are quick. Normally it goes in about 8 to 9 turns, but with RNG, it can be longer. You could have probably scooped a lot earlier, although I felt like I was in the game. I kept getting it down low, but I just couldn't finish it off, and I'm too stubborn to quit. But hope you guys enjoyed. This is over an hour long, so I'll probably end up cutting out some of the turns. Probably from turns like, I don't know, maybe I'll fast forward from turns 6 to 18 and then just cut out a lot of that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, everybody. And if you give it a shot and you enjoy it, put a comment down below. If you hate it, put a comment down below and tell us why. Give us feedback. We're looking for good feedback. All right. Later, guys.